Hey there guys, welcome to the ACH Automotive channel. We are back working on our 1997 Ford Mustang Super Coupe swap project. In the last video, we got the cross member in for the transmission. Unfortunately, I noticed that the transmission was kind of cocked a little bit and it was not lining up with the hole for the shifter in the transmission tunnel in the car. Spent a lot of time off camera trying to figure out what was going on, and I think what I am running into is that I have the wrong motor mounts on the car. Unfortunately, I only have one set of the kind that are on the car. These are for the 96, 97 style 3.8 motor, and you have a set of plates that go on the motor. The motor mounts that are on there just bolt right to the motor. I think a combination of a couple things. First of all, they're cheap, crappy, I don't know, Anchor brand motor mounts. They're nothing special. Couldn't really find much for the 3.8 liter. And I think because the K member is for a 96 plus car, which this is a 97, so that's correct. I think the motor mount styles, even though they do interchange on the 3.8, I think on the K member, that's where I'm running into an issue. So what I have here is I have the correct plates for both sides and the correct motor mounts for the year. So hopefully we'll be able to get those on the car. I did have to go and get some bolts from Tractor Supply. They're M8 1.25 by 20, and I got some washers to go with them. We've got to clean up the threads a little bit on these plates because they're a little crusty from hanging around and years of use, and God knows how many miles are on them. They probably came from this car, so it would be around 120,000 miles. So that is what we're working on today. So let's get these mounts put together, and then we'll get them on the car, and hopefully we can get the transmission to actually line up now. This is what the package will look like when it's on the car. And I forgot why I didn't use these. I think I had trouble getting these holes to line up because these are cheap mounts, and the quality of them, I don't know, it's just not there in my opinion. So we are going to see if we can get all these to line up. See if those line up. Yeah, I think that's what was hanging me up on this particular one. I may have to go find another mount. So you can see the holes line up there, but they're slightly off here. So we can do one of two things. We can get the Dremel out and kind of notch it a little bit, which is not really what I want. Or I can try and buy or find another mount. I have a bunch of these kicking around because they're all got similar issues where I couldn't get them to line up. So this one seems to line up this side, so we're going to put this together, and I got some washers to go onto those bolts, and at least we'll be able to get one side on the car. I'll clean these up just a hair more on both sides, and then we should be good. Sound of the heater. This is where I think this is where I made a big goof up here. So the mount that is on there, hopefully you can see it, is and the other mount. This motor mount here is off 94 to 95 3.8, I believe. And you can see it's one piece. There's one bracket that bolts to the 3.8 and the K member. Sorry for my arm. Then we have this one right here. This mount that I have. Get this cable out of the way here. This is what happens when you build cars in pieces and not put the whole package together. This bracket, you can see, is two pieces, right? So this plate mount roughly right about there, and I don't know if you can see, but we're pretty far off, and that is why I can't get my transmission to line up appropriately, I believe. So we're gonna have to figure out how to change these mounts and move the motor forward. We got the driver's side motor mount, the wrong one out. We have the new plate installed, and it's definitely way off. I'm gonna have to figure out how we're gonna pull this whole package forward a little bit. So this is the correct motor mount, and you can see where the plate is, and you can see where the motor is, and the motor mount. So we're probably a good 3 or 4 inches backwards too far, which is why the transmission mount and the transmission bracket or transmission crossmember won't line up. So what I need to do is get the other mount off the other side and figure out how we are going to coerce this whole package forward a little bit. So I will probably bolt this up to the block first so that at least it has something to sit on while we're working on it, and then we'll go from there. Okay, working on the passenger side now. I moved my jack around a little bit, so the whole motor is jacked up. The transmission is being supported by a jack stand, and I am going to change this motor mount, and then we've got to figure out how to bring this whole package forward so it sits in this first groove here, the stock setting on this Maximum Motorsports K member. Passenger side mount changed, and there's also, because this is an 89 Super Coupe block, there's a plug in here for a sensor that we don't use on this car. So I've plugged that off, put a little Loctite in there because it wouldn't clear this plate. What I think I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to let the floor jack down. I'm going to let the edge of the engine rest on the tubular K member. We're going to slide the jack back probably 6 to 8 inches, pick the whole package up and balance it on the jack, which is probably about as scary as it sounds. And I'm just gonna roll it forward until I can get the motor mounts aligned with that first slot in the tubular K member. So hopefully that goes well. We got the motor mount swapped out on our Mustang. The problem that I am running into right now is the transmission shifter. The T5 transmission shifter is probably 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch too far forward. Now, according to Maximum Motorsports, this front piece here, this front slot is supposed to be the stock position. Well, when I put the motor in that position, I mean, it's really far forward. Doesn't even come close to lining up with the transmission tunnel hole. So I moved it back to this slot, and it's pretty darn close. And I can get the transmission crossmember in place without too much trouble. The trouble that I'm running into right now is that the actual shift piece is hitting the transmission tunnel, and it's overlapping. It's too far forward by about 1/2 inch. Now, my suspicion is that our K member here is too far forward, so I need to figure out how I am going to creatively slide it back without having to take everything back out again. I put this in probably 3 or 4 years ago by myself, so a lot younger, a lot less experienced, and now I'm paying for mistakes that I made then. So I guess to wrap it up for this week, I changed out the motor mounts. That made things a heck of a lot better, a lot easier. The transmission crossmember does line up now. Unfortunately, it's still not in the car. Transmission's sitting way down there, but you can see maybe this top plate is hitting under here, and it is off center. Excuse me, not off center. It won't let me push the transmission up the rest of the way. And these bolts would be the top 2 bolt holes for the shifter would be blocked. So it needs to come back probably another at least 1/2 inch. Preferably 1 inch would be nice. I've got to figure out how I'm going to do that. So that is kind of where we are for this video. So guys, hopefully you enjoyed. I mean, I know the last couple of videos have kind of been about the transmission of the car, but it's fully custom K-member, custom engine. I mean, everything's kind of, these projects take time. It's not like I'm just putting back together a 1997 Ford Mustang with the 6-cylinder in it. It's a 6-cylinder out of the Turbo Coupe, which is, excuse me, Super Coupe, not a Turbo Coupe. Turbo Coupe had the 4-cylinder, which, while it is a Ford motor and it's very similar to the 3.8 that came out of this car, I'm also changing the front suspension. That's full Maximum Motorsports, tubular K-member, tubular A-arms, Takiko shocks, Maximum Motorsports coilovers and everything. So it is trying to get everything to line up. This is the first time I've done something this major or a project this big. It's a learning experience. So next video, hopefully the transmission will be in and we can move on to undercoating, cleaning up the floor and getting some Pour 15 on it so that we can get the fuel lines and the gas tank and all that stuff back in. Unfortunately, it's pretty cold out here, and I've had enough laying on the concrete floor for the day, so I am calling it quits. We did make a little bit of progress. At least the transmission crossmember does line up at this point. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel. If there's something you want to know about this swap or this build, feel free to leave a comment below, and thanks for watching.